When Tanjiro realizes that all 4 demons have lost their heads, he is surprised to see that they are still moving, even though their healing has slowed down because of their wounds. Then, he has the scary thought that even if all the devil's heads were cut off at the same time, they would not die. Soon after he goes to help Nezuko, he feels the presence of a 5th demon, who turns out to be Hantengu. Genya grabs Tanjiro by the neck and tells him that he is the one who will kill the upper rank 4 because he wants to become the Hashira. Tanjiro is happy to help, so he tells him where Hantengu can be found. He and Nezuko try to fight the other monsters at the same time. Nezuko is tied to a tree by the demon of sorrow, who tells her not to move. He calls on Sakito to stop her from moving, but the demon of anger's hand is quickly cut off by Tanjiro's bright red blade. Sakito notices that Tanjiro is not only faster than he used to be, but also stronger than the demon reports said he was. He sees this as he watches Tanjiro easily cut off Yurogi's right wing and mouth. Nezuko grabs Aizetsu's head and pulls herself through the shaft of his yari. Then she tackles him and sets fire to the demon of sadness. As Tanjiro tries to cut Karaku with his sword, the demon of pleasure uses a gust of wind to hold him down. He turns his attention to Genya in the forest, but Tanjiro cuts off his arm without warning. Tanjiro then tells Genya to turn right because the jungle is moving south. Genya runs as fast as she can through the woods, but she can't find the demon. She wonders if it's hidden with a blood demon art. Karaku kicks Tanjiro in the stomach, but he stands up and yells at Genya to move to the right, even though the demon is on the ground. When he looks down, he sees the 5th demon hiding in the plants. Hantengu has shrunk down to the size of a mouse. Genya chases after him, angry that the whole battle has been a hunt to find him hiding while fighting the 4 powerful manifestations. He is shocked and can't believe that the little demon controls the clones. Now that he understands why it had killed so many people, he swings his blade at Hantengu's neck, but even though Hantengu's neck is thin, the blade breaks in 2. Just then, he realizes that Sakito has gotten behind him and is just about to stab him in the neck. As Sakito jumps at Genya, likely to stab him in the neck, the demon killer thinks back to his childhood. His mother was a short, hard-working woman who worked all the time to take care of Genya and his brothers. Unfortunately, his father was very mean and often tried to hit him and his siblings. Genya's mom would have a lot of guts and stand between her kids and her husband without thinking of her own safety. Outside the house, his father was the same, and he was hated so much that he was finally stabbed to death. After their father died, Tsunami, who is the Wind Hashira and the oldest child in the Shinazugawa family, told Genya that he would now protect his younger brothers and his mother. One night, their mother didn't come home from work, which had never happened before, so the kids were getting antsy. So Tsunami told Genya to take care of their older brothers while he went outside to find their mother. None of the kids had slept that day because they were all waiting eagerly for their mother to come. Later, Genya's brother saw a shadow outside the door that looked like someone standing there. They ran straight at the gate because they thought it was their mother. Genya thought something was wrong, but before he could tell the kids to stop, someone broke the door and jumped in. The broken pieces of glass got into the kids' skin during the process. Even worse, the animal or strange thing that had jumped in was now looking at Genya. Just as it jumped at him, Tsunami fought it on the street outside of the room's window. Genya went to check on his brothers, but none of them were moving. He went outside right away to get help, and by the time he got back, the sun was already up in the sky. Genya was shocked when he saw his mother's dead body outside their home. Tsunami was standing next to it, holding a sharp blade. Genya held his dead mother in his arms and yelled at Tsunami for killing her, but it turned out that the night before, their mother had turned into a monster and attacked their family. Tsunami fought her in the dark before he knew who she was. He killed her to save his brothers. He didn't figure out what had happened until the sun came up. Genya still feels bad about the way he talked to Tsunami in the past. He tries to think about how his older brother must have felt when he found out that he had killed his own mother and that his younger brother was making fun of him. Tsunami didn't deserve what happened to him, and Genya feels bad that he will die before he can say sorry. When Sakito's weapon is about to stab him in the neck, Tanjiro runs to the scene and cuts the demon's arm. Tanjiro tells Genya to keep trying and never give up, but Karaku comes out from behind him and tries to attack Tanjiro when he isn't looking. Genya doesn't try to run after Hantengu and cut off his head. Instead, he faces the attack head-on and gets holes all over his body. Genya tells Tanjiro that he failed to cut the neck of the upper rank rank 4 and asks him to finish the task instead. Tanjiro runs after Hantengu, leaving Genya with all of his wounds behind. As Hantengu runs away from Tanjiro, the latter chases him into the open, lights his exploding blood sword on fire, and brings it down on the neck of the small demon. Upper rank 4 screams in pain as the blade burns him, but Tanjiro is determined to keep trying, even though the blade is already halfway through him. Something comes out of nowhere from behind him and scares him. It smells different than Uroji, Sakido, Aizetsu, or Karaku. He still stands his ground, but Nezuko's blood demon art has worn off, so he can't cut any deeper into Hantengu's neck. Genya tells him to move away and takes aim from behind Tanjiro, but he can't shoot because he could hit him. The demon uses his body to make a double-bladed dagger and beats a drum connected to him. This makes a powerful shockwave that knocks Tanjiro back. 5 huge wooden dragons rise up from the middle and carry Tanjiro high into the sky. As he struggles to stay on, the dragons try to crush him in their jaws, causing him to jump and avoid them while riding on their necks. He soon loses his grip and is about to fall into one's jaws when Nezuko catches him in time. She gets bit, but her arm and leg heal quickly. When they land, they see a new demon in front of them, and he calls them awful villains, and calls them brutes who hurt the weak. Tanjiro is surprised to see a 6th monster, and then he realizes he can't see or feel the other 4. Genya is confused when he realizes that this demon used to be Sakido. When Tanjiro cut into Hantengu's neck and he shot at the charging Aizetsu, cutting off his arm, Genya turned to see Sakido raise both hands, grab Karaku and Urogi, and take their bodies into himself. Then he turned to Aizetsu and asked him to come along. Aizetsu seemed to object, but he was still interested. The demon of anger then got down on one knee and changed into Hantengu's hate, a new form. Tanjiro yells at him as he beats on a drum and wraps Hantengu in a piece of wood burl. The demon looks at him with an angry glare that stuns the Tanjiro into silence and makes it hard for him to breathe. Genya too freezes in terror and can't stop shaking when he sees his power. The monster of hate asks him if he doesn't like what he's doing. Even though he is scared, Tanjiro asks the demon why he calls them the bad guys. The demon tells him it's because they hurt the weak, giving the example of trying to cut off the head of a demon that fits in their palm. When Tanjiro hears what the demon says, he gets angry and asks him how he could call the Hantengu weak. He said they smelled like the blood of hundreds of victims and told them to stop playing the victim. Tanjiro raises his sword and says that he will cut off his head. He calls their actions twisted and unforgivable. The demon of hate looks confused and asks Tanjiro if he is done talking. He also wonders if he ate his family members to make him so angry. When Tanjiro doesn't agree, the demon thinks his acts are right. In response, Tanjiro says that helping people doesn't need a reason and that someone like him couldn't know. When the insult hurts the demon, he beats his drum and sends the dragons after Tanjiro. Muichiro, who is still stuck in the water pot, sees Gyoko look into the workshed behind him. He doesn't understand why this is so important and sinks back into his vase. Muichiro figures out that he can use one more form with the air he still has in his lungs. He uses mist breathing, first form, low clouds, distant haze, but the blade doesn't go through the water. Muichiro accepts his fate, knowing that he won't be able to escape with a thrust because his blade is chipped. He starts to think about Kagaya, telling his boss that he will die and hoping that Kagaya will send at least 2 Hashiras to help him. Tanjiro shows up out of the blue and asks him why he thinks that, saying that no one can be sure what the future will bring. Muichiro starts to feel confused because Tanjiro has never said those words to him, so he doesn't know who did. At the shed, Kozo stands in front of Gyoko with a knife and tries to stop him from going any further. Upper 5 laughs at his useless attempt to stop him and jokingly asks if he thinks he can fight. The demon makes a vase out of his hand and throws strong streams of water at the blacksmith, breaking his knife and cutting him. Gyoko asks him why he is so protective of the shed when it doesn't house the village chief. He then looks past him and sees Hotaru cleaning Tanjiro's blade. As the blacksmith praises the quality of the steel, Gyoko looks at him and decides that he is not the chief because he is too old. He calls Hotaru's name to get his attention, but Hotaru keeps working on the blade while wondering who made it. The potted monster gets annoyed by his focus and says that he feels like a failure as an artist. He aims his pot and sends a stream of water at Hotaru, cutting him several times. He keeps polishing though, and Kozo is worried that he won't notice the attack. Kyoko hits again after being stunned, causing more wounds and even breaking the swordsmith's mask. However, the swordsmith stays calm and keeps polishing the blade. Gyoko is shocked by how strong-willed he is, but Hotaru says that the maker of such a unique blade must have a lot of determination, since he only engraved it with one letter, since it serves only one purpose. When Kozo calls to him again, Gyoko gets angry that Hotaru doesn't notice him. He thinks it would be too easy to kill the smith, so he chooses to make him drop the sword instead to break his concentration. As Muichiro's vision starts to get worse, he knows he is going to die soon, but Tanjiro tells him he doesn't get to choose when his life ends. Again, the Hashira says that he had not said those words to him. Tanjiro tells him not to give up and that someone will come to help him. Muichiro says that it's pointless to leave something in the hands of others, but Tanjiro tells him that since one person can only do so much, it's easier to have help from others. Muichiro says that no one can help him because they are all weaker than him and that he should have done better. But he made a fatal mistake by overestimating his strength as a Hashira. Tanjiro agrees with him, but also tells him that everything will be fine. As he dies of choking, he closes his eyes and hears something jabbing into the water pot. Kotetsu desperately tries to stab the pot with a knife and says he won't let him die, but he fails. Muichiro says as he watches that the young smith won't be able to help him if even he can't cut it. He says Kotetsu should focus on other things, like the village chief and getting swords to the village. All of a sudden, he sees that behind Kotetsu is a fish monster with blades. He starts to hit the pot to get the demon's attention, but the demon strikes and cuts Kotetsu on the arms and the shoulder. Muichiro starts to get scared and tells Kotetsu to run away, but the demon stabs him in the solar plexus. He thinks he's going to die, so he's shocked when the blacksmith walks towards him and tries to stop Kotetsu from helping him and bandaging his wound. Instead, Kotetsu touches the water pot and blows bubbles into it. These bubbles reach Muichiro and help him catch his breath. Tanjiro suddenly reappears and says again that helping others will help him in the long run, but then disappears into the mist. A new person then appears and tells Muichiro that people can be so strong when they work together. When the mist clears, Muichiro can see that the new person has red eyes. Now that the Hashira has enough oxygen for one more move, he uses mist breathing second form 8-layered mist to cut through Gyoko's blood demon art. Muichiro says that now that he is free, he knows why Tanjiro seems so important to him. He has the same red eyes as his father. Thanks for watching. If this series is the most liked in my anime recap production, I will make a part 3. Also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to help me make some more content.